What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Dirt Road Therapy at the Dirt Road Therapy Shop. It might look a little different because it's actually not the Dirt Road Therapy Shop. This is my friend Mark's shop. He does cool stuff like this XJ that he's building with his daughter. You can check out his channel. It's Malarkey Taylor. I'll leave a link here. And please check him out, subscribe, and all that good stuff. I'm here right now to talk to you about a product that I've been using on my Jeep for a really long time now, since I built the Spool Bus. What I have in front of me here is a part from Behemoth Drivetrain. It is their Dana 300 twin stick flip kit. I'll talk to you more about what exactly this does and how it works. But first off, let's just talk about Behemoth Drivetrain. So if you've heard about Behemoth Drivetrain, you might have heard bad things. Behemoth was bought by a group that has now taken all the intellectual property, all the branding and everything, and they've been churning out these parts at a much better rate. They are working to put aside all of the negative connotations with the name, because these all along have been really quality parts. The issue has just been in overpromising and under-delivering, which just came from the guy that was running this being overwhelmed with orders. So Behemoth Drivetrain, now I am confident to recommend. I was hesitant before, but having talked to the new owners, very confident to recommend this product. So if this is version 1.0, this is version 2.0, and there's a lot of improvements here to talk about. I want to jump in and show you guys exactly what all is different now that Behemoth is a whole new company.
But first, what does this thing even do?
So you're probably wondering, what's a twin stick, what is a flip kit, and why does anybody need it? Well, we'll get into the flip kit part of it, but let's talk about the twin stick aspect first. Dana 300s originally are just a two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive selector, and then high and low. So basically it's either two-wheel high, four-wheel high, or four-wheel low. Just like you have on a NP231 selector. If you can picture that, it goes from two-wheel drive, there's neutral in here, but two-wheel drive to four-wheel high to four-wheel low. So what the twin stick does is it changes that whole thing it splits it into front and rear. And you've got front and rear, high, neutral, and low. So these are the three sticks that we're talking about. And we're ignoring this one right now. That's going to be high or low range for the doubler. High range, meaning it's basically just a pass-through. Low range would be exponentially increasing the low range of the whole transfer case. So let's start here. This is front high, neutral, or low. Currently, I'm in front neutral because I'm going to be in two-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive. Then we've got the rear selector. High, neutral, and low. That's in high because I want to be in two-wheel high. Now, it does not have the ability to do, high. I'm in high range here, so I can't pull this stick into low and ruin my transfer case. But if I want to put it into rear low, I can do that. And now that is just two-wheel low. Only the rear wheels are in low, the front's still in neutral, it's disengaged. I can put the front into low, which will now allow me to be in four-wheel low. And likewise, I could be in rear neutral, front high, or rear neutral, front low. Now, the practical use of two-wheel drive front, whether it be high or low, is going to be in an off-road scenario where you want that control. The most, people call this a front dig. The most common use of it is going to be to steer the front axle, or the whole front of the Jeep, in a way that you can't do in four-wheel drive. So let's say, you're up against a tree in the front, really close to the front, and you need to scoot the front of the vehicle left or right, and only the front. You don't want to move forward. You don't want to back down and steer. You just want the front to go in a direction. You can typically, even if you wanted to use your e-brake, You could lock the rear wheels, spin the front wheels, and that'll give you that kind of scoot that you need. So sometimes when you're comparing products like this, it's best to talk about what's the same first, and then we can get into the differences. So what's the same? They have the same functionality, they're made out of the same materials. I've made a couple minor tweaks to this part, which I'll point out as we go, but basically we've got a piece of machined billet aluminum for the top. Thickness is relatively the same, although I would say when I turn these around, you'll see it looks like the new part here is actually the top might be just a little bit thicker. They both have two shift selectors here with detents, and they have shift forks on the back side. So turning these around, you can see what the differences are here. And really, that's where the vast difference comes in, is in how these shift forks are assembled, as well as on the top. I'll show you that in a different shot. But the whole shift mechanism has really been completely redesigned, and it's really, really nice. We've got welded together cut steel parts that are nice, but they're, you know, not the best ever. This is a piece that I added just as a deflector on the breather so that it hopefully wouldn't pump any oil out. I was having issues with that, which I think ended up just being because I was overfilling it. But there's no reason not to have that there, so I'm just leaving it. I also built a sight tube into my transfer case, and that's what this is. So this is basically just another breather, and then there's a tube that connects to this that goes down below, but that just shows me how much oil is inside of my transfer case. These shifters, they work fine. There's little ball spring detents on them, and there's also like lockouts so that you can't put it into front wheel low and front low, rear high or something like that. General design of the shift fork itself and these anti-friction pads is relatively the same. You notice this is all machined parts. It's as few parts as possible to make this really just work a whole lot smoother. This pivot point has been totally redesigned, which looks really nice. There's still some weld going on here, but overall, the thickness between these is just incredibly better. So what it boils down to, what's really going to make a difference in these parts is the shifters. So this, while it works okay for me, I can definitely tell that there's some improvements that could be made. And when I look at this, I just see, yep, that's the improvements that should have been made. So you've got like 3/16 inch steel shifters here. These have like a keyed slot in them on the pivot, so they're not going to roll there. But there could be some definite flex in this part that would be apparent in the shift feel when you go to use it. What they've done, they've upgraded this to not just a laser cut piece, but this is a machined piece of 3/8 inch steel on the shifters, the shift levers over here. There's also an exterior stop point, where on these it's relying entirely on the interior shift rails and shift forks to stop it. So you can't overshift this one. You could kind of overshift this one and be forcing it, and this will eliminate that. Basically, you're using the same hardware to attach it, but rather than being a flat piece of plate with welded on bungs to thread in the detents, this is all one machined piece here with a nice raised center section to hold those detents. So these are the adjusters for basically how tight and snappy the shift feels. Looking at the other big thing, we've talked about the beefiness of these interior pieces. Basically, overall, I think what they've done, they've gotten rid of everything that they possibly can that's just kind of a fabricated, welded piece and made it into a machined piece. So looking at this shift fork piece here compared to this one, this has a weld here, and it's welded up at the actual shift fork up in there. This, I only see the weld at the shift fork and where that mounts onto this arm. There's literally no other welded together piece that could break inside of this thing. So everything, like I said, is as machined and built out of single solid pieces of steel as possible, rather than it being like bent and fabricated, welded together stuff. So that's going to make a big difference just in the overall longevity, but it should also translate to a better feeling shifter as well. Just so you can understand how this works, normally there were shifters attached to shift rails on the other side of the transfer case. Those have all been covered up, and this is now the method of shifting. This shift fork just engages that selector, and it has the pads on there, you know, to the anti-friction pads to give it a nice tight fit, and because that's always going to be spinning, that'll keep the metal on metal from contacting. But basically when that's there and this shifts, that's what makes the selection from gear to gear. The only thing left to cover is the flip kit aspect of this, and it's really only because the Dana 300 is typically found in passenger side front axle applications, and we need it in a driver's side front axle application. So the differential is offset to the driver's side on the front axle of a Jeep Cherokee, and the twin stick flip kit is kind of 2-in-1 because we need to flip that transfer case, but also just the whole way that the transfer case is set up and this flip kit works is that it only works if the transfer case is flipped. So it's flipping the transfer case. You need a clocking adapter to be able to do that without the doubler. So that's one reason that I chose to do the doubler, but that's the whole reason for the flip. So hopefully you understand now why twin stick and flip, what they do, why you want it, and maybe start considering getting something like that from Behemoth Drivetrain for your build. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, check out some of my other ones because I do dive a little bit more into the exact transfer case setup that I have in here. And you can also see plenty of videos of this Jeep in action throughout the channel. Take it easy, guys. I'll see you on the next one. Just for funsies, here's 4-wheel, low. It's at idle, about 1,000 RPM. Let's go to 2,000 RPM.